Hi, everyone. Welcome back to No More Freezing, the podcast where you improve your English by listening to real conversations.
Grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's dive into another fascinating topic.
Today's topic is something you've probably experienced without even realizing it. Have you ever burned your toast, missed a bus, or been late for work, only to discover that something good happened because of it? Today, we're talking about resilience and the famous burnt toast theory.
Which is something I think literally everyone can relate to.
Totally. But before we get too far in, I just want to say to everyone listening right now, today's chat will include a few psychology-related words, but please do not worry.
Yeah, there is no test at the end of this deep dive.
Exactly. This is not a grammar lesson. We just want you to relax, enjoy the story, and let your English improve naturally through context.
Right, and when we use a complicated word, we will break it down for you.
Exactly. Our goal today is just to have a great conversation about how we all handle the unpredictable, messy parts of life.
And the messy parts are kind of the best parts, honestly, because, usually when we talk about a morning routine, society gives us this expectation of total perfection.
Oh, absolutely. It's so much pressure.
Right. It's supposed to be like engineering. The alarm goes off at exactly 6 in the morning, the coffee brews perfectly, the toast pops up perfectly golden brown, and you just walk out the door, take a deep breath, and say, I am ready for the day.
But then you step into the real world.
Right. In the real world, the toaster is broken, you spill the coffee on your white shirt, and you just cannot find your left shoe anywhere.
We're looking at a daily landscape that is, well, basically chaotic.
Just so chaotic.
Today, we have a really interesting stack of sources. We are looking at news articles, viral internet trends, some very angry internet threads, and a fantastic clinical text on the psychology of resilience by a Spanish psychologist named Lidia Martin-Torralba.
That's a great book.
It really is. We are going to explore what the burnt toast theory actually means, why our human brains desperately want to believe it, and how the actual science of psychological resilience explains our reactions to life's little inconveniences.
I think we have to start with the internet trend itself because it is absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, it really took over.
It did. The burnt toast theory went massively viral on platforms like TikTok. There was one user in particular mentioned in our sources who really helped define this idea for millions of people.
And the basic idea is something every single person listening to this can relate to. I mean, imagine you are making your breakfast.
Okay, I'm imagining it.
You put some bread in the toaster, but you get distracted, maybe checking your phone, and you burn your toast. It is completely black.
The worst.
Right. You have to throw it away, get another slice of bread, and remake it.
Which is just so annoying. I mean, it's a minor inconvenience, sure, but it delays you by maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And it's the exact kind of thing that makes you think, great, my whole day is ruined. I am starting my day with terrible luck.
But the theory asks you to look at what happens next. Because you were 5 minutes late leaving the house, you avoid a massive traffic accident on your normal route to work.
Wow.
Yeah, so the burnt toast, that annoying little delay, actually saved you from something much worse.
Or, I mean, if we look at it from a completely different angle, maybe a more romantic one, let's say you are delayed at a coffee shop because the person making the coffee messes up your order.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
Right, you were standing there, checking your watch, feeling super frustrated. But while you were waiting those extra 5 minutes, you bump into someone.
Oh, like a romantic comedy?
Exactly. You start chatting, and that person ends up becoming your closest friend or even, the love of your life.
So the theory suggests that we should read these small bits of bad luck, not as a sign that the world is against us, but as potential lifesavers.
And there are some extreme real-world examples in our sources that make this feel so real. I mean, things that actually happen.
Like what?
Well, take Alaska Airlines Flight 1282. This happened recently, back in January 2024. The door plug of the airplane literally blew out in the middle of the flight.
Just to explain for our listeners, the door plug is a piece of the airplane wall that seals an unused emergency exit. And it just ripped off the plane in the sky. A completely terrifying situation.
Beyond terrifying.
Okay.
It left a huge hole in the side of the plane while they were flying. But the 2 seats right next to that door, the seats that would have been the most dangerous place to sit,
Yeah.
they were completely empty.
Wait, really? Why were they empty?
Because those specific passengers missed the flight. They were late to the airport.
Oh, wow. That actually gives me goosebumps.
Right. They probably experienced some version of burnt toast that morning, heavy traffic, Maybe they couldn't find their car keys. Maybe their alarm just didn't go off.
And they were probably so stressed and angry at the airport.
Oh, furious, I'm sure. But that minor annoyance literally saved their lives.
When you hear a story like that, I mean, the burnt toast theory feels undeniably powerful. It feels like concrete evidence that there is a protective design to the universe.
Yeah, it really does.
Because we naturally want to find a narrative, a story, to explain the random chaos of life.
But I have to push back here, and this is a question for you listening right now, too. Do you actually believe the universe cares about our breakfast?
That's a very fair question.
I mean, I love the idea. It is a very comforting thought.
Yeah.
But it feels a little, I don't know, self-centered. Like, does the universe really pause its massive operations just to make sure my toast is burned so I don't get in a minor car accident?
The universe is quite large, it's true.
Don't get me wrong, I actually have a story where this exact thing happened to me.
Oh, really? Let's hear it.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago, I was trying to catch my usual morning train, but I couldn't find my umbrella anywhere. It was raining, and I was running around the apartment, pulling things out of the closet, getting so frustrated.
A classic burnt toast moment.
A total burnt toast moment.
Yeah.
By the time I finally found it, I missed my train by about 30 seconds. I saw it pulling away. I was furious. I had to wait 20 minutes in the pouring rain for the next one.
Oh, no, that is the worst feeling.
It is. But when I finally got on that next train, I sat down next to an old friend from college who I hadn't seen in maybe 5 years.
Oh, way.
Yeah. We ended up reconnecting in a really meaningful way, and we are still great friends today. So I completely understand the appeal of this theory. It worked out perfectly for me.
Yeah, it gave you a great result.
But I constantly ask myself, is it destiny? Or is it just statistics and coincidence?
I have a similar story, actually, from when I was living in Chile. I had this very important job interview, and I had everything planned perfectly. My clothes were ironed, my resume was printed.
You ready to go?
I was so ready. But when I left my apartment, the elevator was completely broken, and I lived on the 10th floor.
Oh, you have to be kidding me.
Nope. I had to run down the stairs in heels, and I ended up twisting my ankle slightly. I was in pain, I missed my bus, and I arrived at the interview 15 minutes late.
Oh, man, that is so stressful.
I thought, well, this is it. I ruined my chance.
I would have thought the exact same thing.
But when I walked in, the manager who was supposed to interview me was also running late. She had been stuck in a terrible traffic jam. When she finally arrived, she was so flustered and apologetic.
Wow, so you were both late.
Exactly. And because I was also late and had this funny story about the stairs and my ankle, we instantly bonded. It totally broke the ice.
That's awesome.
It was. The interview felt like a conversation between friends instead of a formal test.
Yeah.
And I got the job.
See? That is amazing. So did the universe break the elevator just for you?
Well, this is where our deep dive moves from the emotional appeal of the theory to some very valid criticisms. Because if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the logic kind of starts to break down.
Right.
If the universe delayed you to save you from a bad situation, what does that mean for the other people?
Right. And our sources include a look into some internet forums, specifically some Reddit communities, where people debated this exact idea. And let me tell you, the pushback was fierce.
People were angry.
Very angry about this theory.
Why were they so upset?
Because of the dark side of that logic. One user pointed out the flaw of fatalism.
Fatalism, right?
Yeah. And for our B1 and B2 listeners, fatalism is the belief that all events are predetermined by fate, and there is absolutely nothing you can do to change them.
It's out of your hands.
Exactly. This user wrote, "This means millions of people were destined to suffer in horrible historical tragedies. But sure, an angel intervened in your morning routine to put in motion an elaborate chain of events to save you."
Ouch. It is a very harsh criticism, but you can totally understand their point.
Yeah, another user brought up really serious tragedies, pointing out that there are always famous stories of people who survived because they were late to work that day. Maybe their car wouldn't start, or they stopped to buy a coffee.
Right, you hear those stories a lot.
And someone else replied to that saying, yes, and all the other people didn't survive. It implies it was their destiny to suffer, just as it was his destiny to live.
That is the danger of magical thinking.
Yeah.
It implies a universe that micromanages minor inconveniences for some people while completely allowing horrific things for others. When we assign a divine reason to everything, it creates a very uncomfortable moral situation.
One user just called it the magical thinking that keeps us in the Stone Age, and another user signed their comment with the name Anton Chigurh.
Oh, from the movie.
Yes. For our listeners who might not know, Anton Chigurh is the terrifying villain from the book and movie No Country for Old Men.
He is so scary.
So scary. He is a guy who is completely obsessed with fate. He flips a coin to decide if his victims live or die. He literally believes that the coin toss is destiny.
Right, it's the ultimate dark side of leaving things up to fate.
And some people in that discussion were just exhausted by the pressure of it all.
Because it takes away our own agency, our own control.
Exactly. One person pointed out a very literal biological reality just to show how silly the theory can be.
What did they say?
They wrote, "I don't eat burnt toast. It's been studied that it could promote cancer."
Oh, wow, they were taking it very literally.
Super literally, which is funny. But their larger point was about causality.
Yeah.
Why do things happen? They said, what annoys me is that people give the causality of events some sort of divine reason. Most of the time, a delay just happens for no apparent reason.
Right, things just happen.
Exactly. What matters is how you learn to perceive and react to that situation.
And that user, probably without even realizing it, stumbled right into the core of clinical psychology because the debate isn't really about whether the universe is pulling strings from above. It is about how the human mind creates meaning.
How we interpret the world.
Exactly. If we want to soften this concept and make it actually useful, we can look at the author and actress Teory. Our sources mention her book, which is called Speed Bumps.
I loved your take on this. It is so practical.
It really is. She offers a much healthier, more grounded interpretation of the burnt toast.
She basically says, look, if your toast is burnt, you don't need to throw it away and declare that the universe is sending you a message.
Right.
Just take a knife, scrape the black part off the toast, put some butter on it, and eat it anyway. Enjoy it anyway.
It's such a simple, beautiful metaphor for accepting imperfection. I mean, society places this massive pressure on us to be perfect.
Always.
We are expected to have the perfect morning routine, the perfect commute to work, the perfect English pronunciation, the perfect career.
And when something isn't perfect, we immediately feel like we failed.
Yes. But Teory argues that the theory isn't about destiny or angels saving you from traffic. It's a metaphor for not letting a tiny flaw ruin your entire day.
I like that a lot.
Sometimes your day is just a little bit burnt. You scrape off the bad part and you keep going. It is resilience in miniature.
It's funny you mentioned the pressure to be perfect. Our sources mention that some psychologists connect this burnt toast idea to the French philosopher Jacques Lacan.
Oh, yes.
He had this idea called the lack.
Right. Lacan argued that absolute perfection is an illusion. Our human desires can never be completely 100% satisfied.
It's impossible.
It is. We have to learn to live with the lack, the small space between what we want and what reality actually is.
And if we think about it that way, the burnt toast is just a daily reminder of the lack. The universe isn't perfect. Your morning won't be perfect. Your grammar won't always be perfect.
I love connecting that to language learning. So many students freeze because they want to speak perfectly.
I'll get so stuck in their heads.
But perfection doesn't exist. You have to scrape the burnt toast of your mistakes and just keep talking.
So why do people love the burnt toast theory so much if it's not scientifically real? I mean, why did it go so viral?
Because it acts as an emotional shortcut. It reduces our anxiety. When something goes wrong, our human brain immediately wants to overthink. Psychologists call this rumination.
Rumination.
Yes. Rumination is when your brain loops on the same negative thought over and over again, like, why me? Why today? If only I had set my alarm 5 minutes earlier. I am so stupid.
Oh, I do that all the time. I will play a small mistake on repeat in my head for 3 days straight.
We all do. It's so human. But the burnt toast theory stops that rumination. It short-circuits the negative loop.
How so?
Well, instead of beating yourself up, you say, oh, maybe the universe is protecting me. It gives you a quick narrative to stop the anxiety and restore a sense of control in a random world.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like a mental trick we play on ourselves to just feel better in the moment.
Exactly. And this transitions us beautifully into the actual science-backed psychology behind all of this. Let's talk about the mechanics of why this theory makes us feel better.
Okay, I'm ready.
In psychology, there is a formal term for this. It is called cognitive reframing.
Cognitive reframing. Let's break that down for our listeners. Cognitive relates to the mind, right? To thinking and reframing.
Think of a physical picture frame, like the frame you put around a photograph on your wall.
Okay, got it.
The picture itself doesn't change, but if you put a dark, heavy, ugly frame around it, the picture feels dark. If you put a bright, beautiful frame around it, the picture looks totally different.
That makes sense.
So cognitive reframing is changing the mental frame around an event in your life.
So it's not about denying reality. If my toast is burnt, I don't sit there pretending it's a perfectly cooked piece of bread. That would just be lying to myself.
No, it is not delusion. You acknowledge the reality. You say, my toast is burnt, I am late. But instead of framing it as a disaster that proves you are a failure who can't even make breakfast.
Which is the dark frame.
Exactly. You reframe it. You change the frame to, this is a minor hurdle. It is a slight delay. Maybe it gives me 5 extra minutes to listen to a podcast.
There is a quote in our sources from the famous therapist Albert Ellis that perfectly captures this. He said, "You feel mainly the way you think."
You feel mainly the way you think. It is such a simple sentence, but it is deeply profound.
It really is.
How we interpret an event directly influences our emotional well-being. If I think my delayed train is a curse, I feel angry. My heart rate goes up, I sweat, I clench my jaw.
Your body literally reacts to the thought.
Exactly. But if I think the delay might be a hidden opportunity to read a book, to call my mom, or even just to avoid something worse, I feel calm.
The event didn't change at all. The train is still late.
Right. But my thought dictated my emotion.
That is incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
Because it means we aren't just helpless victims of our circumstances. We can actually choose the frame.
And this connects directly to the core of our deep dive today, which is resilience.
Right. Resilience.
What does resilience actually mean in psychology? We use this word a lot in everyday English. We say, oh, she is a resilient person, or children are so resilient.
Yeah, I always thought resilience just meant bouncing back, like a rubber ball. You throw the ball hard to the ground, and it bounces right back up to where it started.
That's how most people think of it.
You get knocked down by life, you stand back up, you wipe off the dirt, and you survive.
According to the clinical sources we have, especially that comprehensive guide by Teralba, that is a very common misconception.
Really?
Yeah. What you are describing is resistance or recovery.
Okay, so what's the difference?
Resistance is just withstanding the punch. Recovery is getting knocked down, feeling the pain, and eventually returning to your normal baseline. But resilience is something much more active.
More active than just standing back up.
Yes. Resilience is not just bouncing back, it is bouncing forward.
Bouncing forward. I really like that. So it means you don't just survive the crisis, you actually change because of it.
Exactly. In psychology, a crisis is viewed as 2 things simultaneously: danger and opportunity.
Danger and opportunity.
Most of us, naturally, only see the danger. We see the pain, the fear, the disruption to our routine, but the truly resilient person is actively looking for the opportunity hidden inside the suffering.
They use it to grow.
Yes. They use the crisis as a laboratory to learn new skills.
Okay, I have to ask a question on behalf of everyone listening right now who might be naturally a bit pessimistic, because this all sounds great in theory.
I sense a but coming.
But are some people just born resilient? What if I am genetically predisposed to expect the worst?
That's a fair worry.
What if I am the kind of person who literally cries when I drop my burnt toast on the floor? Is there hope for me, or am I just not a resilient person?
It is a fantastic question, and the answer is deeply encouraging. Psychology uses something called the biopsychosocial model.
Biopsychosocial. That is a long word.
Let's break it down. Bio means biology or genetics. Psycho means your mental state. Social means your environment and the people around you.
Okay, so it's a mix.
It means human behavior is a mix of all 3. So yes, genetics play a role. Some people are born with a brain chemistry that makes them naturally more optimistic. They have a biological head start.
Lucky them, honestly.
Lucky them. But the clinical texts make it abundantly clear. Resilience is not just genetics. It is not something you either have or you don't. Resilience is a skill. It is like a muscle in your body. Anyone can develop it through practice.
Like going to the gym, but for your brain.
Exactly. Torralba uses a famous drawing by the Spanish painter Goya to illustrate this. It is a sketch of an old man with a long white beard leaning heavily on 2 walking sticks.
So he looks really old and frail.
Very frail. But the title written on the drawing is Aún aprendo, which translates to, I am still learning.
Wow. That's beautiful. Even at the end of his life, he is still developing.
As long as a human being has the capacity to learn, they can develop a resilient personality. But you can't just look in the mirror and yell, be more resilient.
Yeah, that is way too abstract. It doesn't mean anything.
Right. If I want stronger arms, I don't just yell at my arm.
No, you have to do specific exercises like lifting weights.
Exactly. So the book breaks resilience down into specific subtraits or specific muscles, and she gives us the exercises to train them. I think we should walk through some of these because they are incredibly practical.
Let's do it. Let's go to the psychological gym. What is the first muscle we need to train?
The first one is analytical capacity. When a non-resilient person faces a crisis, their brain immediately panics. They see a giant, impossible problem.
Right, the sky is falling.
But a resilient person stops, takes a breath, and analyzes the situation rationally. They don't jump to catastrophic conclusions.
They try to figure out what is actually happening.
Yes. And the book introduces a cognitive tool for this called the pie chart technique.
A pie chart, like the circle graph you use in a boring business presentation.
Exactly like that. Imagine a circle. When something terrible happens, let's say you get a very bad score on an English exam, it is very easy to feel like your whole life is ruined.
Totally.
You draw a mental circle, a pie chart, and you color the entire thing black. You label the whole 100% of the circle, I am terrible at English and I am a failure.
Oh, I have definitely done that with things in my life.
We all do. But the pie chart technique forces you to slice the pie. It forces you to look at the reality.
Okay, so breaking it down.
Yes. The bad exam score is a slice of the pie. Maybe it's 25%. But what are the other slices? Maybe another 25% is that you didn't sleep well the night before because you were stressed.
That's a valid slice.
Maybe another 25% is that the exam was testing vocabulary you haven't reviewed yet. And maybe the last 25% is that you actually very good at speaking English, even if your grammar on the test wasn't perfect.
That completely changes the feeling. Suddenly, the crisis doesn't own 100% of my brain.
It breaks the monopoly that the bad event has on your mind. It dilutes the power of the crisis. That is analytical capacity.
Okay, I love that. Slice the pie. What's the next muscle?
The next one is active coping. The resilient individual is fundamentally active, not passive. They do not just sit there and let life happen to them.
This reminds me of the fatalism we talked about earlier. The passive person says, well, the universe wanted me to fail.
Exactly.
But the active person says, what can I do about this?
Precisely. They want to be the author of their own story. But, and this is very important, they aren't delusional.
What do you mean?
Active coping involves knowing what you can change and accepting what you cannot change. You don't waste energy fighting a storm. You use your energy to build a shelter.
And asking for help is part of active coping, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes people think being resilient means doing everything completely alone, like being a tough guy.
That is such a myth. Asking for help is one of the most active things you can do. Recognizing your limitations and reaching out to a teacher, a friend, or a professional is a strategic use of your resources. It shows high resilience.
All right, so we have analytical capacity and active coping. What is next?
Equilibrium. To explain this, Toralba uses the metaphor of a tightrope walker.
Like someone walking on a thin wire high up in the air at the circus.
Yes. Picture that person. The circumstances around them are constantly changing. The wind blows, the wire shakes, the crowd gasps.
It's terrifying.
But the core of the individual remains steady. They keep their eyes fixed forward. If they look down into the void, into the sheer terror of how high up they are, they lose their balance.
This feels so relevant to modern life. We're constantly hit with news, emails, notifications, stress. The wire is always shaking.
Equilibrium means maintaining a healthy distance from emotional extremes. It means feeling the stress, but not letting it knock you off the wire.
Which I imagine requires the next trait from the book, flexibility.
Yes, flexibility is essential. Think about how a GPS navigation system works in your car.
Okay, I'm thinking about it.
You type in a destination, you start driving, but suddenly there is construction on the road and it is blocked.
A rigid person would just sit in front of the construction cones and cry. Or yell at the road, like, I plan to go this way, this is unfair.
Exactly. Cognitive rigidity is a hallmark of poor mental health. You spend all your energy demanding that reality match your plan. But a flexible person is like the GPS. What does the GPS say?
Recalculating route.
Recalculating. The destination might still be the same, but the flexible person accepts the new reality and charts a new course. The original plan is ruined. Okay, let's find a detour.
Recalculating is a great word for our B1 and B2 listeners to learn. It means calculating again, figuring out a new plan. When you burn your toast, you are just recalculating your breakfast.
And to recalculate effectively, you need the next trait, creativity.
Usually when I hear creativity, I think of painting a picture or writing a song.
It includes that, but in psychology, creativity is about problem solving. A crisis is, by definition, a new and unexpected situation.
Right, you haven't faced it before.
Old solutions rarely solve new problems. The resilient person looks at the unknown as a creative challenge. They are inventors. They try unconventional approaches.
Can you give an example of that?
Let's go back to learning English. A traditional, rigid way to learn is to memorize a textbook. But what if you get bored and want to quit?
That happens to a lot of people.
A creative, resilient learner might say, okay, the textbook isn't working for me. What if I learn by playing video games in English? What if I translate my favorite recipes? They invent a new way to solve the problem.
I love that. It makes the struggle actually fun.
This connects directly to curiosity. Resilient people are incredibly curious, not just about the world, but about themselves. They have a high capacity for insight.
Insight meaning looking inward, understanding your own mind.
Yes. When trauma or stress hits, the natural human reaction is to look away. We want to distract ourselves.
Yeah, we watch TV, we scroll on our phones, we try to numb the pain.
But the resilient person dives in. They want to know the why and the how of their own suffering. They study their reactions to extract lessons from them.
Wait, I have to challenge that. Because a few minutes ago we talked about rumination. If I am overly curious about my own bad feelings, doesn't that just lead to overthinking?
That's a good point.
If I drop my burnt toast and I start deeply analyzing my feelings about the toast, aren't I just trapping myself in a negative spiral?
That is a brilliant point. We have to make a very clear distinction between rumination and healthy curiosity.
How do we tell the difference?
Rumination is passive and circular. It is asking, why did this happen to me? Over and over again without ever seeking a solution. It is just complaining to yourself.
Right, okay.
Curiosity, in the resilient sense, is active and linear. It is asking, how am I reacting to this? Oh, I notice my heart is beating fast. What strategies work to calm me down? Let me try taking a deep breath.
Okay. That is a huge difference. I think of it like a broken engine in a car.
Okay, I like car metaphors.
Rumination is staring at the smoke coming out of the engine and crying. Like, why did my car break? This always happens to me.
Exactly.
But curiosity is opening the hood, taking the engine apart piece by piece and saying, okay, how does this machine work? Which part is broken and how can I fix it?
That is a perfect metaphor. And taking that engine apart requires the next trait on the list, bravery.
Bravery. Being brave. Does that mean not being afraid?
No, that's a myth too. Bravery is not the absence of fear. Bravery is feeling the fear, acknowledging that the problem is huge, and taking a step forward anyway. You don't throw in the towel.
You keep going.
And you build this muscle through something called habituation.
Habituation, that's a good vocabulary word. Habituation comes from the word habit. It means getting used to something by doing it repeatedly.
Right. Every time you face a small fear and survive, you habituate yourself to the stress. You build the bravery muscle for the next larger fear.
Like exposure therapy.
Exactly. If you are afraid of speaking English, the brave thing isn't to suddenly give a speech to 1,000 people. The brave thing is to habituate yourself. Ask one question in English at a store. Next week, have a 2-minute conversation. You build the habit.
Step by step. And I guess sometimes being brave just means waiting. Which brings us to the next trait. Patience.
Yes, the ability to tolerate frustration. In our fast-paced modern world, this might be the hardest muscle to train. The book uses the example of a traffic jam.
The ultimate test of patience.
You are stuck in your car. You cannot move the cars in front of you. A non-resilient reaction is to honk the horn, scream at the steering wheel, hit the dashboard, and flood your body with stress hormones.
Which achieves absolutely nothing. The cars still aren't moving. You just made yourself miserable.
It's the burnt toast. If you burn the toast, you can scream at the toaster, but it doesn't unburn the bread. You just have to patiently wait for the next slice to cook.
So true.
Tolerating minor discomforts, like a long line at the grocery store or a slow internet connection, these are micro workouts for your patience muscle.
That is a harsh truth. If I lose my temper because a video takes 5 seconds to load, how am I going to handle a real-life crisis?
Exactly. Which brings us to a very famous concept. Emotional intelligence.
I've heard this phrase a lot in business and leadership books. What does it mean in terms of resilience?
Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions, and to recognize the emotions of others. The book gives a very funny but relatable example of low emotional intelligence. She talks about dealing with emotional discomfort by attacking the fridge.
Oh, attacking the refrigerator. Eating your feelings.
Yes. If I burn my toast and I am actually stressed about a deadline at work, I might not process the stress. I might just open the fridge and eat 5 chocolate cookies instead.
Because the sugar gives you a quick hit of comfort.
Exactly. But the emotion is trying to give you data. It is trying to tell you, hey, you're stressed, You need to ask for an extension on your project, but instead of listening to the data, you silence it with food.
That's a great way to put it.
Or another example is expressing every single emotion as anger.
I definitely know people like that. If they're sad, they yell. If they are scared, they yell.
Emotional intelligence means untangling that knot. It means being able to say, I am feeling grief right now, or I am feeling embarrassed. And that is okay. I will allow myself to feel it, identify it, and let it pass without letting it destroy my day.
And you have to really know yourself to do that, which links to the trait of realistic self-vision.
Knowing your strengths and your weaknesses without lying to yourself, it is about profound honesty.
Being real with yourself.
Yes. You don't inflate your ego and pretend you are invincible, but you also don't crush yourself with toxic self-criticism. The resilient person looks at their core self and says, I have flaws, I make mistakes, but I also have specific tools and talents, and I will use them to rebuild.
Okay, I am keeping track. We have analytical capacity, active coping, equilibrium, flexibility, creativity, curiosity, bravery, patience, emotional intelligence, and realistic self-vision. Is there one more?
The final trait the book mentions is spirituality. And the clinical texts are very careful to explain that this doesn't necessarily mean organized religion, though it can for many people. In psychology, spirituality is about finding a broader purpose.
A bigger meaning to your life.
Yes, the belief that there is a larger context to your existence. People with a deep philosophical purpose often recover faster from trauma because they can contextualize the suffering.
That makes sense.
The most difficult feeling during a crisis is that the suffering is completely meaningless. Finding a purpose, even a secular one, like deciding to use your painful experience to help someone else who is going through the same thing, is a powerful hallmark of resilience.
Wow. That is an incredible profile of the resilient person. They are analytical, they recalculate like a GPS, they are brave, they are patient, and they know themselves. But I want to zero in on one specific idea that connects this massive psychological breakdown back to our viral TikTok burnt toast theory.
What is that?
The difference between intelligent optimism and toxic positivity. Because if we are constantly reframing bad things as good things, if every time something horrible happens we say, oh, the universe is just saving me from something worse.
Yeah.
How do we avoid just pretending everything is perfectly fine when life is actually really hard?
This is perhaps the most crucial distinction we can make today.
Because honestly, if I lose my job or if I get into a terrible accident and someone comes up to me and says, hey, everything happens for a reason, I don't feel comforted. I feel insulted.
And you should feel insulted because that is the definition of toxic positivity. Toxic positivity is the forced, false facade of happiness. It is the denial of real pain.
It reminds me of that famous internet meme. You know the one?
Which one?
The drawing of the cartoon dog sitting at a table with a cup of coffee. The entire room around him is engulfed in flames. Everything is burning down. And the dog is just smiling, taking a sip of coffee and saying, this is fine.
Yes, that is exactly what toxic positivity is. It demands that you suppress negative emotions, which we just learned from our discussion on emotional intelligence is deeply harmful to your brain.
It's basically lying.
It invalidates real human suffering. It tells people they aren't allowed to be sad.
So what is intelligent optimism? How is it different?
Intelligent optimism does not deny the flames. It looks at the burning room. It accepts the reality, saying, this situation is dangerous, I am terrified, and this is really bad.
Right. Acknowledging the fire.
But it actively chooses to focus its energy on finding the fire extinguisher.
It's rooted in reality. It acknowledges the bad, but it focuses on the tools to fix it.
Completely. It traces back to the work of Martin Seligman, who is considered the father of positive psychology. He originally studied a concept called learned helplessness.
Learned helplessness, meaning you are taught to be helpless.
Yes. It is the phenomenon where animals, or humans, learn that their actions have no effect on their environment, so they just give up. Think of an elephant tied to a tiny wooden peg in the ground. When it was a baby, it couldn't pull the peg out. It learned it was helpless. Now it is a massive adult elephant, and it could easily pull the peg, but it doesn't even try. It learned to be helpless.
That is exactly like the fatalism we talked about with the internet users, the Anton Chigurh worldview. I can't change anything, so why should I try?
Exactly. Learned helplessness is the ultimate pessimism. It creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. You believe you will fail, so you don't study. Because you don't study, you fail the test, which proves to your brain that your belief was right.
A vicious cycle.
But intelligent optimism is the antidote. It is learned hopefulness. It is the conscious decision to believe that your actions matter.
It's a huge shift.
When the night is darkest, the intelligent optimist doesn't smile and pretend the sun is shining. They look for a flashlight.
And this brings us to what I think is the ultimate light bulb moment of this entire conversation. It is a very subtle shift in language, but it completely changes how we interact with the world. When something goes wrong, when the toast burns, when the flight is missed, when the elevator breaks and you twist your ankle, our brain's default setting is to ask one specific question. Why is this happening to me?
Which is a completely useless question.
It really is. It traps you in the past. It traps you in victimhood. You are just ruminating.
But the most resilient people, the intelligent optimists, they change the question. They don't ask, why is this happening to me? They ask, what do I do now?
What do I do now? That is so empowering. 3 little words. Well, wait, that's 5 words. What do I do now is 5 words. But you get my point.
I get your point. It moves you from passive suffering to active problem solving. It uses your analytical capacity, your flexibility, and your creativity. It acknowledges the reality of the burnt toast and immediately begins charting the path forward.
So let's bring this all together for everyone listening. What have we learned today? We started with the burnt toast theory, this viral, comforting internet idea that small inconveniences are just the universe's way of protecting us from major disasters.
And we found that while taking that theory literally can lead to magical thinking and toxic fatalism, taking it metaphorically is actually a profound psychological tool.
Definitely.
It is a form of cognitive reframing. It helps us scrape the burnt parts off our day, accept the imperfections of life, and keep moving.
We learned that true resilience isn't just gritting your teeth and surviving the punch. It is an active, trainable set of skills.
Just like learning English.
Exactly. It's the pie chart of analytical thinking, the GPS recalculation of flexibility, the flashlight of intelligent optimism. It is the shift from why me to what do I do now?
Ultimately, resilience is the scientifically proven ability to look at the chaotic, unpredictable, muddy waters of life and decide to swim rather than sink.
So, do you think everything happens for a reason, or are some things just coincidences?
Tell us what you think in the comments. We would love to hear your stories.
Yeah, let us know your burnt toast moments.
Thanks for spending some time with us.
Keep listening.
Keep speaking.
And remember,
Yeah, you.